Welcome to Book Watch, the podcast where pages meet screens. I'm your host, Sarah-Daye. Each week, I'll be joined by amazing guests to dive deep into the world of adaptations, comparing beloved books with their cinematic counterparts. From faithful retellings to bold reimaginings, we'll break down what worked, what didn't, and what made each adaptation unforgettable. Whether you're a bookworm, a movie buff, or both, you are in the right place. So grab your bookmark, grab your popcorn, and let's watch some books. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Book Watch. I am back after a summer hiatus, and I am ready to kick things off with a Halloween season. And we are going to start that off with A Clockwork Orange. And today I have Jonathan Moody with me. Jonathan, why don't you introduce yourself, your podcasts, and kind of why you picked this book?
All right. My name is Jonathan Moody. I co-host a show called Indie Film Cafe with my buddy Paul. I'm also a filmmaker with Sick Flick Productions. I also have other YouTube pages like the Blu-ray Hunter and Horror Film Lovers, which are also, but they're just like a little bit different than Indie Film Cafe, so they're not in that grouping. And that's it. I'm. It's funny because Sarah and I were talking earlier, and the thing is, she's a book reader. I am not really, and so I just don't have the focus to really read a lot. But I'm really excited to chat about this actually.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say I'm the book reader because full disclosure to my listeners, I could not finish this book. So this is going to be more of me just interviewing Jonathan as opposed to a conversation like past episodes have been. And I'm interested to see how you feel about the two. But the main reason, and we're going to talk about why, but the main reason was there's two reasons why it's hard to follow. And I was listening to it. Before we get started on that, let me introduce the books and the films. Clockwork Orange was written by Anthony Burgess in 1962. The audiobook was narrated, or at least the version that I started listening to, was narrated by Tom Hollander, which was a treat. The film was adapted and directed by Stanley Kubrick in 1971. And I want to talk about the complete cultural impact this movie had, but let's go back to the book and why it was hard for me to follow. Anthony Burgess almost created his own language. He kind of merged, some English words with other words, and they call it Nadsat. And that was one of the main reasons why I had trouble reading this book or listening to it on audio. And then the second reason was just how brutal it gets. And that's just not something that I can stomach very well. So I would like to come back to it because I do like to challenge myself and I do want to work through the Nadsat. But I'm definitely going to have to take this book in chunks and spend like some time and take breaks, like read a chapter and then read some nice romantasy and then go back and read another chapter.
Something like that. Yeah. Actually, Nadsat, the language, is a mixture of Russian and Yiddish. So that's what Anthony Burgess had told Malcolm McDowell when we talked about it, and he actually came up with it when he was in Moscow, and there was these hooligans who were like staring at him and everything, and he came up with the Clockwork Orange based on the there was a phrase, queer as a clockwork orange. It meant like it was strange as a clockwork orange, which just means it's strange as a sort of a person, a something that is mechanical but looks normal and on the outside. So it's great. Like I love the language, but I get the whole like not being able to follow it. But the main reason because you asked me like what I wanted to do, like this wasn't your pick,
Right.
And I picked it because it was one of the few books that I actually read when I was a kid, so I wanted to watch the movie, and my dad was like, "I'll let you watch it if you read the book. And back then the book had like the glossary of terms in the back, the when I had, so I
Mm.
would go back there, I'd read the thing, and I'd do that. I did that really quickly. I think I did it
Right,
3
which
days.
I can't do listening to it on Audible. And if you don't know, I live on Audible. I love Audible, and that's why I always say who the Audible narrator is too. So I don't have the luxury of doing the glossary, but again, if I can get the hard copy book and spend some time going through it slowly, I can use the glossary.
Exactly. So yeah, and the glossary, yeah, I didn't have the glossary in this. I have this version of the book, and it actually has the last chapter, which we'll get into later, I'm sure. But
Yes,
the final chapter, which is not in the American version, this is in an American version that has the final chapter, and they actually talk about at the end
awesome.
as a thing of why they put that back in there, is they think it's culturally needed for everybody. So I loved it. I
Mm.
really loved reading.
It's
It's
not for the faint of heart.
yeah, it's a book that will you're in the mind of somebody who does really malicious, nasty things and does not feel sorry for anything that he's doing for most of the time, and he tries to make you feel sorry for him most of the time, and you can't,
Hmm.
because how
Yeah.
nasty he is. And that's why I like the movie, because the movie really does kind of make Malcolm McDowell very likable at times, even though
Mm.
he shouldn't be,
Hmm. It's a
likable.
very charismatic actor.
Yeah, and he was actually Stanley Kubrick's only choice.
Wow.
It was if I think I heard that if Malcolm McDowell hadn't found him on didn't see another movie of his, he wouldn't have made the movie, because he was trying to find the right person and nobody fit the bill until he saw Malcolm.
Wow. Interesting. Very cool. So that's a little bit about Nadsat and why it's kind of difficult to read, like physically. On the other side of things, this book actually got banned, and there was a lot of controversy about the stuff that happens in the book, and then in society, people started copycatting the crimes that were committed in the book. So Anthony Burgess himself, I can't remember if it was the book or the film. I think it was the book, had them like ban the book. And because to stop the copycat crimes. But it's very graphic, and it's hard, like morally and mentally, to get through the book as well.
I can see that. I can see that people would read the book and then think, "Oh, that'd be fun to do." And you know what I mean? Like really bad people would be like
Yeah.
thinking, "Oh man, these people just go around and do all these nasty things to random people at night." And I mean, we do have that. We have those kind of people
Hmm.
anyway, but like kind of giving them ideas and other stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, is not usually good, but like it's fiction. Like this isn't this it wasn't a real thing that actually happened, or
Right.
anything.
Exactly. But all of that aside, this film still has like a long lasting cinematic legacy. Like I had never seen this film, read this book, but when you said that's what you wanted to cover, I knew exactly what you were talking about. Like I'm involved in the cinematic industry in a way. So like it's not like I'm a stranger to it. So it's definitely had a lasting impact. You want to talk a little bit about that as a filmmaker yourself?
Right, and then first of all, I wanted to say, like, because I was looking at your, subscribe to your channel, and I was looking at the stuff on YouTube. I was like, oh, she has Pride and Prejudice, she has Jurassic Park, and now it's going to be A Clockwork Orange from me, and this is completely like out of left field for like probably even like your subscribers, or whatever. Um,
But that's
I
why it's perfect for to kick off Halloween.
Yeah, I think for me, Stanley Kubrick is probably like this is my favorite Stanley Kubrick. My co-host Paul and I have a thing where he loves The Shining, which is also another book.
Yes,
Put
Stevens.
yeah, Stephen King. book that he adapted, and which is, I mean, someday maybe we'll do that, because that's those that movie and that book are completely different. So much so that
Really?
they actually did a Stephen King had to hire somebody. I don't know if it was Mick Garris or one of those directors, but he had to hire somebody that directed his version of it and stuff. So there's another version of it, but
Wow.
the Stanley Kubrick version is like by far like everybody's favorite except for Stephen King.
Yeah.
Um, 'Cause he just
Well,
he
he's a master filmmaker, it seems.
yeah, he's a very master filmmaker. I'm a huge fan. I like almost every one of his movies. I don't
Can
think
you
there's
name a few more that he's done?
he did Full Metal Jacket, which I absolutely adore. He did 2001 A Space Odyssey, Lolita,
Okay.
which is very controversial.
What was it?
Lolita.
Okay.
Okay, so Lolita is a movie about like a young girl and a older man, and like there's
A
this sort of,
relationship.
yeah, relationship and stuff. And they did do like another version, like another remake that I think Adrian Lynn did, and it was not it was, and people still love that one. The girl who played it, I feel bad for her because she's much older now. She's, I think, older than me, and she was on like her live on Instagram, and you know how people can chat on there.
Yes.
Everybody was going Lolita, 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 and I was like, and like I
Yeah.
think her boyfriend got pissed because he was like, she's not, you know, she's
Yeah.
not
That's not
that
who she
person
is.
anymore, yeah,
Right.
kind of thing. But that's, you know, that's what people remember her from, is Dominique Swain. Kind of
Yeah.
feel bad for her, but you know, because that's a pretty hardcore role. Like a young girl, she's supposed to
Mhm.
be like 15. She's probably 18 when she, you know,
Sure.
acted in it. Maybe, but that's the thing. So yeah, he's done controversial ones, but he's also done movies like The Killing, which we've covered on Criterion Watch, which is our one of our videos that we do for Indie Film Cafe, and we, you know, there's a ton. I mean,
Mhm.
Barry Lyndon is fantastic. I mean, just everything he did. And his newest movie, Eyes Wide Shut, is not newest, but his last movie
Okay.
before he passed away. Eyes Wide Shut, starring Nicole Kidman and
Yep.
Tom Cruise. That is actually getting a Criterion release, so that will
Mm.
finally, you know, kind of be like people are respecting that, because it didn't get the respect in the, you know, when it first came out,
Yeah.
but
Right.
you know,
Well, it was I have not seen it, but I remember it coming out, and that was also was it controversial or was it just
it's a little controversial, yeah.
okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I was much younger when that came out, so I don't
Yeah,
remember
I think it
quite.
was 99, I wanna say, but that
Yeah.
was, like, the last movie he did before he passed, and
Huh.
so he left a legacy. He had you know,
Yeah.
he had so many great movies. I mean, I'm probably missing a ton too, that offhand.
Right. Well, I put you on the spot. But let's move on to our characters and the actors that portrayed them, and how you thought they brought these characters to life on
Mhm.
screen. Of course, let's start with Alex DeLarge, played by Malcolm McDowell, who you've already kind of talked a little bit about. But what did you think of his portrayal?
Oh, fantastic. Probably, it should have been up for an Academy Award. They have 4 Academy nominations, and, they didn't win anything, unfortunately, but it just goes to show how much of an impact it did have on Hollywood.
Yeah.
So
If it came out this year, like in today's world, what do you think the nominations or wins would have differed?
that's a good question. I don't know. I think I think as a society, we've kind of tried to get away from like the ultra violence that's in the movie and everything.
Yeah.
Like we're trying, like I think we were talking beforehand before the thing happened. This would be a great TV series. You know, this would probably get Emmy nominations for a TV series or something.
Yes. Yeah. We were
As a movie,
saying,
I don't think it would have. I don't think you can make it as a movie because people don't even like nudity in movies anymore. If you've noticed, like there's less and less of it in the,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of it still in like
The
HBO and
HBO, yeah.
and whatnot, and they're very okay with still putting that up there until the day they stop putting it up there. Then I think I think no, because like if you took away the like the nudity and the violence and everything, you get nothing. Like that's
Yeah.
literally the thing that makes
Well,
us you know
I was just reminded of The Boys on Amazon, and how violent that show can be, and
Mhm.
um, how often they kind of push push to the edge of what's controversial or not.
Yeah.
So I bet like something like Amazon or HBO, like we already mentioned, would be good. But I know, were we talking offline, or did you mention on the podcast about how Malcolm was the only actor he wanted for the film?
I don't remember if it was offline or on, but no, he was yeah, he was sort of there was interviews and other things, and there's a great commentary from Malcolm McDowell and the late Nick Redman, who chatted about uh, the throughout it, and I think Nick brought it up to him as saying, "I heard that you were the only one." He said, "Yeah, that's what I heard too. Is that I was the only choice for him to play him because he saw him in a movie and he said that's
That's
like
him.
his look, just his look." And they even talk about the beginning of the movie. There's that shot, like that opening shot of them in the milk bar or whatever, and he kind of just gives that look to the audience and everything, kind of like. And
Hmm.
he did not. Stanley Kubrick didn't tell him to do that, and he Stanley Kubrick what is it? Said, "Did you just kind of cheers to the audience?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, I wanted to let the audience know we're in for a hell of a ride." And I was like, I never thought
Yeah,
about
you
that,
sure
but
were.
yeah, that was it. That was his nodding to the audience that you're gonna
Wow.
be in something.
Wow, that's a really great nugget. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so next we have Mr. Alexander, played by Patrick McGee.
That was
What
great.
did you?
Yeah, I loved
Why?
him.
Yeah, I don't think any of the performances are bad in this movie.
It's funny because yeah, Mr. Alexander, which they might have mentioned his name once, but then they called him Frank. And it's so funny because in the book, he's F. Alexander. Like that's how he's like wants
Mhm.
his. And by the way, I don't know if you know this or not because I don't know how far you got into the audio book,
Not far.
but A Clockwork Orange is actually mentioned in the book.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
when Alex and his droogs, his buddies, go in to attack the typewriter guy, which is the Mr. Alexander and his wife and everything. They In the book, he stumbles across one of the things on the typewriter that says A Clockwork Orange, and he kind of tries to think of what that means, and he comes up with the idea and everything, which is not in the movie because I guess Stanley Kubrick wanted you to guess on your own what that might mean.
Next up, we have Dim, played by Warren Clark.
Yeah, he was great. He was fantastic. I loved him. He thought he was fantastic. He was he after I've seen the movie more times than I've read the book.
Mhm.
So like I know I could remember sort of things, and so I could picture him when I was reading the book, and I mean that guy was so great.
Georgie, played by James Marcus.
Yeah, he was great. Once again, it's different when you read the book.
Mhm.
The characters kind of swap around and stuff, and they kind of, like the ending has the two cops being Billy Boy and Dim, and not I think it was Georgie and Dim, and Georgie. So it got me all confused. So we'll talk a little
Mhm.
bit about that later when we get to toward the end.
Yeah, Jurassic Park did that as well, and kind of like combined characters and switched some characters around, and yeah, it does get, um
A little confusing probably after reading the
yeah.
book.
Mhm. Okay, and then the last character I'm going to mention, unless there's anybody you want to talk about specifically, is the Minister of the Interior, played by Anthony Sharp.
I mean, everybody did a great job. I don't think there was anybody there that I thought like was bad. I just don't think because from what Malcolm McDowell said, he was very meticulous about who he wanted in the cast. So
Mm,
he would actually, if something wasn't working out, he would fire, kind of fire them and hire somebody else if he needed to. And I just don't think he they did audition after audition to find the right people and
yeah, I mean, he
everything.
definitely had a vision, that's for sure.
Yep.
So, anything else about the actors that you want to mention and how they brought these characters to life, or maybe didn't bring them to life in the way you would have liked to see?
Well, what I did notice was that reading once again, going back to reading the book and watching the film. I guess that's what your whole podcast is about. Is that there were things like the things would go on differently in the book than a lot of times that Stanley would bring it to life. And like one instance was the deltoid, the PR deltoid, who was the corrective officer guy. He, in the book, uh, the doorbell rings. Alex opens it up, sees the guy, lets him in, talks to him, and then they have a he's on a rocking chair talking to him, and it's pretty much like the same conversation. There's not really I thought like the book added stuff, but it really didn't. It was the same basic conversation, and then but in the movie, like they're sitting on a bed together. He gets really inappropriate and like touches it, like kind of hits him in the yarbles, and it was weird. It was different than that, and I enjoyed that because that's cinematic. Like that's somebody sitting in a rocking chair is going to be boring, and
Hmm.
that's the one thing that Stanley Kubrick does not like is boring. There's
Hmm.
like one scene where and I always thought this was the most boring scene in the whole movie. And when I heard the commentary and Malcolm McDowell said that Stanley Kubrick was saying, "Oh, this is boring," and then Malcolm McDowell's like, "Hey, we need this. We just had like a crazy scene. We need like
Yeah,
a
you need
little
to
bit of a
balance it out.
we need a breather. So
Yep.
we need a little bit of something that's going to take you away for a second of all that stuff." And I said, wow, he's absolutely right. Okay, now I'll look at that scene maybe a little bit differently. But like, if I were a kid, I probably or younger, I hope I wouldn't watch this when I was like a little kid, but like, I would have fast forwarded it
Hmm.
because it like a lot of it was like when he's getting his like stuff, and they're like, saying, this, and he was also Malcolm McDowell mentioned in the commentary that he wanted to make sure that he was being up to like being good to the cops, or
Hmm.
whatever, showing he can be because there is a lot in the book that they cut out. And already that movie was 2 hours and 16 minutes. So I'm
Which
guessing
is pretty
that's
long for back then.
yeah, well, I mean, I guess if Dr. Zhivago was like 3 hours. If it was epic or
Right.
something like that, this was not an epic. This was just a story. So yeah, it was pretty long for that kind of thing. Not long for Kubrick. Kubrick does long movies too. He's very known for that. But yeah, so the movie's 2 hours and 16 minutes. If they had added all the different stuff and the first chapter had a ton of stuff that was cut out, you know? And I found out one thing, and I was kind of mad because I was like, this scene was awesome. But then I was like, but it fits for like the later stuff that like things got changed, right? And they actually filmed a scene where in the beginning, the first chapter has the scene where the professor guy or whatever gets attacked and
Hmm.
his books get ripped up and
Mm.
everything like that.
But the books.
Yeah, the books got ripped up, and because he even said like nobody reads, anymore, and
Mm.
that was just a talk in the '60s. And people can probably still say that today.
Right.
People would rather watch a movie or play
Yep.
on their phone than they'd read. Um, but he ripped up the books, and then later you see him and a bunch of other guys, that guy, at a library beating the crap out of Alex. So, but they filmed that scene with him getting the stuff ripped up. However, they couldn't get that guy back to film the scene with him in
Mm,
the library and stuff. So they just made it the homeless guy that gets beat up, and then later on gets his buddies to beat up, which I mean works, but
yeah.
that whole thing, you lost a whole section where Alex wanted to kill himself. Like there was a part in the book where he was like, I'm not gonna be able to survive this. I'm just gonna have to figure out how to kill myself.
This is
It's
while he's getting the treatment.
It was after the treatment when
Okay,
his
but before
mom.
he's released or at.
It was after he got released when his mom and
Okay,
dad kicked him out, and he was on the streets, and he was like thinking to himself, I'm not like if I get sick, if I'm just trying to hurt something, I can't do this anymore. I'm just gonna go and figure
yeah.
out a nice peaceful way for me to kill myself, and I'm gonna read about it. So
So
it's
let's fast forward to the ending, the missing chapter,
mm-hmm,
because in the US version, and then the movie was based on the. Okay, so listeners, the US version was missing a chapter, the final chapter from the UK version. And the film was based on the US version. So it's a different ending than the actual book. Now, in the movie and the US version, Alex survives a suicide. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan. Alex survives a suicide attempt and then seems to revert to his old violent impulses.
mm-hmm,
Whereas in the UK version, so this missing chapter, he actually is shown to grow older and is starting to tire of the violence. And the key kind of question is, did he change through, maturity and growing older, or through the, treatment that he went through?
right. Um, yeah, that was pretty much very close to what happened. So basically, at the end of A Clockwork Orange, the American version and everything, it just says, "I was cured," because he does attempt to kill himself. He jumps out of a because he's listening to because I guess we haven't really explained the plot thing, but like the whole the
Right.
whole idea is that he gets arrested for attacking this woman, and then he gets arrested and he finds out he murdered her. But he didn't plan to murder her, he just planned to like knock her out or whatever, get out of her way, and then the cops were coming, so he needed to run out, and his friends betrayed him and left and broke a bottle over his head and made him blind, and he came to the police, and the police said, you murdered this poor woman. So they put him in jail, where he finds out that he has this, that there's this technique, this new like experimental stuff that's going on that's supposed to allow you to get out of jail quicker. He doesn't care how it is. And I think even in his brain, he thinks, I'm just going to do whatever these people say. And then when they let me out, I'm going to go back to my nasty ways. Well, they do this hypnotherapy kind of thing where they put this like this experimental serum into him, make his eyes open
Yeah.
up really
Then that's like
wide.
one of the iconic shots from the film and in the trailer, is like that device holding his eyes open, and like, is there like a TV flickering in the background too?
Yeah, well, he's watching. He has to watch movies that are violent and nasty and stuff, and the things are making him, whatever he's watching, it makes him sick watching it.
Yeah.
So he starts feeling sick. Well, the worst part is they put music in there too. And he loves music. That's the thing that like makes him
Oh.
human. He
Mhm.
loves Beethoven's fifth or ninth,
Hmm.
Beethoven's ninth symphony, fourth movement, and they put that in there. And by just it, even in the movie that they're like asking him, or they're because he's like, this is a sin, this is a sin, please stop, this is right, and they're like, what is a sin? And he's like, you're putting Beethoven in this, like, and they're like, are you talking about the
Oh.
background score? And he's like, yes, yes, stop, stop. I don't want to hear it because I love my Beethoven. And now music, anything classical or whatever, especially in the movie, it made it especially Beethoven's ninth.
Mhm.
But in the book, it was like Mozart, everything,
Yeah.
anything
I was gonna
music.
say that is like the trailer music. It's like you've gotten the shots of all these violent acts, and there's that classical music playing over the
Yeah.
trailer.
And so that stuff makes him sick. So anytime he thinks about, even if he thinks about something, it makes him sick. So they're like, they even say he can't even kill a fly. And
Hmm.
in his brain, he says, "That's right. Your humble narrator can't even think about killing a fly because now I'm just thinking about how I'm gonna do nice things for that poor fly that I'm thinking about." And that is literally it. And so the idea is like, is he doing the right thing? Is he doing the wrong thing? Problem is, like, he gets beat up by all the people that are that he did wrong to and everything. The police are now the in the I think in the book, maybe in the movie also, probably in the movie also, but the police are being like young hoodlums are being recruited for the police, by the way. And they're recruited because of his what is it his because they're reformed in a way, and they can kind of help like beat up all the bad criminals and stuff and get away with that. And so that's what they do. They beat the crap out of Alex and leave him out in the middle of the woods, and he crawls, gets up, walks, and goes out to find the place that he had unfortunately sexually assaulted a woman, and she ended up dying, you know and he didn't know that, and he never got caught for that. Like, he wore masks and stuff. So the man who came to the door and everything, and it's different in the movie than it is in the book, because in the book it's one man and that's it. He brings the guy, he lets Alex in and everything like that. In the movie, there's the man, and he has an assistant with him because he's in a wheelchair, because he got beat up so bad. And the assistant is David Prowse, who people may know as Darth Vader. So Darth Vader's in the movie, does not say a word, just like the guy who plays Darth Vader never actually says it. James Earl Jones does the voice. So but David Prowse, like, basically is a very tall guy and very like a muscle builder, and he picks up Alex and helps bring him and helps him out, and then he invites two of his friends, but he realizes that that's the guy that came and attacked me, killed my wife, and he gets really upset. In the book, he finds it out through the language, because he's like, because at first Alex isn't using the Nadsat, and
Right.
then all of a sudden he starts using it, and he's like, wait a minute, I know these words, I know what these
Right.
people are saying. In the movie, it's he sings "Singing in the Rain," and when he sings it in the tub, he hears it, and the guy's like all frustrated from it because he knows that's the guy. That's the
Right.
right. And
Wow.
it made me like wonder, like, because he is against anybody doing all this experimentation to him and everything, like, why did he get up, like, so he's okay, or he's not okay with people doing the experiment as long as it's on the guy that he doesn't like,
Right.
that did that. And I think that sort of, I don't know, I think that's sort of a, I don't know if that's hypocritical or if that's whatever, but
Yeah.
so he brings his two friends. Now in the movie, it's a guy and a woman. In the book, it's three guys that come, and they find out what and they get his, are you really the guy that did this? And he's like, I am so sorry, that was a time, blah blah blah. He should have said no,
Hmm.
lied,
Yeah.
but he didn't. He was very honest, and they found out it was music that did it to him, that does it to him. They put music in one of the rooms, lock up the thing, he can't get out, and he goes and jumps out the window and tries to kill himself and survives. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a crazy story.
it is.
But yeah, that's a lot. And then he does come out, and so the to go back to your that was a long-winded thing, but the ending of the book, the last chapter is, he's cured, right? And he
Right.
gets three new droogs, because the old ones are no longer around. One of them died. They mention that in the book. They do not mention it in the film. And so it's, the final chapter is him and his three new buddies, and he's like getting old. Like he's 18 or 19, like 18, 19, which is another thing we can talk about in a second. But he's like, I'm ready to like settle down, have a family. He
Right.
meets, he sees one of his old buddies, one of his old droogs, and he's got a wife now,
Wow.
and everything's like he has like this life outside of everything, and he
Hmm.
starts walking around and thinking, what I need to. And my only problem with it, like I get it, and I get why they did it. My only problem with it is it needs more than one chapter, because it just feels like all of a sudden,
It stops.
yeah,
Maybe like
because
a sequel or something, and
yeah,
how he
yeah. Well, I don't. That'd be interesting if they did a sequel to A Clockwork Orange, because like where
go.
would Alex would try to. That would be kind of a. If they went the way that like the last chapter goes, it'd be boring, because it would be like, okay, now Alex is just getting older and stuff, and no violence or no nothing. Uh, if they kind of stopped with that and changed the ending and had him continue to be this thing until he decided to
Hmm.
do that, that would be cool too. I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting. I like reading the ending, and I learned through research that it was like chapters. It was three parts, right? So
Hmm.
there were seven chapters in each part. So there
Hmm.
was 21 chapters, which is when you're technically an adult, 21, each 21. So that's why he wanted 21, I think, is what I heard.
Interesting. So, are there any kind of like side stories or key moments in the book that were not in the film that you wish were in the film, or kind of vice versa? Is there anything that was in the film that wasn't in the book that you really appreciated?
That's a good question. So like I think, as I said before, like the first chapter had a few scenes. There's one really cool. So the place that they keep going to, right? What they would do, which is not in the movie, but is in the book, they would go up and they would go to that Maloka bar or whatever, and they would sit down, and these like old ladies would kind of come around, and they would, give them, they would, use all their money, and they would give some, buy them a drink or something like that, and keep them happy, right? And so then they went to a convenience store and robbed and sexually assaulted a woman there, and they came back to that place, hung out, and everything, and the police show up, and the police, got a description of who the people were. So they came up and asked about it, and the ladies and everybody there go, no, 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 he was here they were here the whole time. None of them did that. That's these aren't the people you're looking for. And so that it I don't know if that was ever filmed or not, but it was not in the movie. And then in the final chapter, they go there, the new droogs and him go there, they hang out, they're talking, and he decides not to spend money on those ladies and save it for himself, because he got that was part of his deal with the government coming in and not having him brainwashed and curing him from this thing, is that, we're going to give you a job, we're going to make you a real citizen of this area and stuff. You're going to be okay. And that's why he went back to his ways. So like that stuff was cool. I like that.
So is there anything else you want to talk about before we kind of get into our comparative analysis and then bookmarked moments?
Um, no, I think it was just interesting to reread it. Like I said, I'd seen it like so many times because it's a great movie. Like it's got it's not something I put on like every day or anything. Like
Right.
like it's not something you can watch all the time.
Mm.
But it is a very well done movie,
Hmm.
and everything. So but rereading the book, and I know it's hard for you because of the Nadsat. After a while,
You get used to
I
it.
think if you read it instead of like listen to it,
Oh, for sure.
it's actually a lot quicker. Um,
So
like
two
I
comments on that. So first I went to Reddit and I saw a lot of people said watch the movie and then read the book because it's a lot easier to understand the Nadsat. Second of all, yes, I agree, and that's why I want to get the book and read it in sections instead of listening to it. But that said, I could tell in the little bit that I did listen to, Tom Hollander was giving an excellent performance. So if you've read the book, if you've seen the film, and you like audiobooks, I definitely encourage you to listen to the Tom Hollander because Tom Hollander's amazing in his own right. But I could tell that it was going to be a really good performance as soon as it began. Also, the audiobook, I don't know if the book had this, but there was a whole section about the missing chapter and like why he the author didn't love the movie, and it's because his book wasn't, not that he didn't love the movie, but this book was not his favorite book that he wrote,
Mhm.
um, but it's his most famous because of the film.
Right. And the funny thing is, I watched a interview with Anthony Burgess, and it was Anthony Burgess and Malcolm McDowell in the thing. But
Oh, very cool.
yeah, and he had said like he had, and it's on YouTube, so these kind of things are on YouTube. But he had said that he had, he was at the, what is it? He watched the movie with his wife and like agent at the time, and they wanted to leave
Yeah.
like halfway through or whatever. They're like, and he was like, no, 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 you got to sit down. Stanley is like right behind us. We can't just do that. So they had to watch the whole thing, and he said he was, what was crazy is like the the movie, basically the book is written where the Nadsat is so big in it that you have to read all the Nadsat, all that stuff to get to the violence. But when
Mm,
you watch the movie, the violence is just there,
mm,
and everything. And I think that's what he didn't like about it because he liked kind of bearing the violence and everything, so
sure.
you had to find it if whatever, if you were reading it, but like there's like right in front of you, and it was pretty, like controversial and very, in
Yes.
lots of ways.
Yes. So, which format do you think told the story better, or do you think that they both kind of succeeded in their own right?
I think both. Like I think both did. I think both were different in a way too. Like Stanley made some choices that was different than the book, and the book had certain things from it that I did get a lot out of. So I almost feel like if you read the book and you watch the movie,
Mhm.
you're almost gonna get two different things, from it, even with the same stuff.
And do you agree with the sentiment that I saw on Reddit that watching the movie and then reading the book is helpful? I know you said you read the book before you saw the movie
Right,
originally.
and
Yeah.
that's how I did it, and like I could say like it would be a little bit maybe easier, but there are still some words that are in the movie that are in the book that are not in the movie.
Mhm.
So the Nadsat is very big. And so maybe they might even use like one word once, but then you in the book you hear it like a billion times.
Mhm.
So you'll be like reading it, and it's that whole language throughout the whole thing. In the movie, it's he's surrounded by other people, who don't speak this language
Right.
too, right? So like his mom and his mom, how do they say it? Like P and M is what they call like mom and pop,
Uh-huh.
kind of thing. So his mom and dad, um, and then some words like there was one part where they would say like instead of eggs, they would say eggy wags. That's the word
Uh-huh.
and everything. Well, at one point in the book, he actually said eggs instead of eggy wags, and I was like, wait, did they mess up? Was that like a
A
typo
typo.
where
Yeah.
he was supposed to say because it was in his language, so I was a little confused, but I did really enjoy, like reading it. And then today I saw the movie. Like this,
Hmm.
I finished it last night reading the book. 'Cause I'm a procrastinator, so I took longer than I expected but
Uh-huh.
I was like, if I could just read two chapters, like, every time I kind of like make a little thing, I could get finished, and I got finished from Wednesday to Sunday, and
Nice.
stuff.
Yeah. So okay, this is now we're at bookmarked moments. So this is when you are going to give me what you liked best about the movie adaptation, what your least favorite part about the movie adaptation was, and then thirdly, what is the most memorable moment of either the book or the film. So let's start with what did you like best about the movie adaptation?
Um, like, okay, so it's about the movie, yeah. So, um, I
In
just
as an adaptation, like what was the best part about like what they brought from page to screen?
I think pretty much just the visual style that he had. There were certain places and stuff that weren't in my head, even though I've
Mhm.
seen the movie a million times. There were certain places that weren't in my head that when I saw it, I was like, "Oh man, that looks so much cooler
Hmm.
than what I thought."
Yeah.
Stanley knows how to film things. Like
Yes.
he's very good at that. He also takes he's known for taking like 120 takes. And interesting thing I learned is that there's a scene where the deltoid, the guy, comes in and spits at Alex, and everything.
Mhm.
And Malcolm McDowell in the commentary said that actually was, he had done 12 takes of that getting spit on. And
Ugh.
then, and the guy, and then Stanley Kubrick said, and, do it again. And the guy said, I have no more spittle left. And this guy next to him goes, I could do it, you know? So he did another 20 takes.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and they had to get it just right. It had to be like he wanted it like right dripping off his nose and everything. Like there was a specific look he
Uh-huh.
wanted. And
Yeah.
he is also known for saying Stanley Kubrick has said to at least he said it to Malcolm that or whatever, I think it was Malcolm, but he said that sometimes he doesn't know what he wants, but he knows what he doesn't want.
Hmm.
And I think that's very that makes the adaptation good because he knew exactly what he didn't want, and he would take it until he got
Yeah.
exactly what he wanted.
Yeah. Awesome. So what was your least favorite?
Um, I'm trying to think what would be my least favorite. It's hard to think because the movie is so good.
Mhm.
um, what was the part that I didn't like? I mean, I've told you, like I think I told you, Shiny was my buddy Paul's favorite adaptation, or Stanley Kubrick. This is my favorite, so
Mhm.
it's really hard to like. I think there was a little bit, some overacting on purpose, and everything. Like that was sort of what the style, and everything. There was people, saying things really over dramatic and
Mhm.
everything like that. And I there were times I was like, I would have done things differently myself, but I'm not the master of filmmaking as he is. So maybe he's right and I'm wrong, in that sense. But there's a couple like very over the top performances. Like I'll give you an example. In the book, what I told you that what is the guy finds out through the language and him saying these things, and he starts kind of questioning it, like, wait a minute, I've heard that before. I've said, what? where did I hear that line, right? And
Mhm.
stuff like that. And I thought that worked well. And the adaptation, he hears the singing in the rain from a distance, and it dawns on him, but he's got his head down, and he's like mad, and it's like looking up at him, and it's a weird like
Uh-huh.
thing where and then he starts talking to him. It's just like it just way too much, and
Yeah, it
I'm
just
like,
kinda takes you out of it.
he does. It's like I didn't, because like at one it did kind of, there was one point that did kind of like startle me, I guess, because he's eating food, and the guy, get wheelchaired over or whatever, and sitting next to him, and he goes, and there's like this pause, and he goes, "Everything satisfactory," or something like that, and it's like, oh my god, like, dude, you're like way too loud, like this seems abnormal, but I think that was the point.
Mhm.
And so even though that bugged me a little bit, I'm it didn't make me hate the movie or anything.
Of course not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, what is the most memorable moment from the book or the film?
Okay, most memorable. All right. So from the book, or both, or what, or just
Yeah,
one? Okay.
whatever moment stood out to you the most, whichever medium.
Huh. Um
I'm
well,
thinking it's gonna be from the film
honestly,
since
the thing I really dug from the book that fortunately did not get, I felt like it wasn't as big on it. It did have it a little bit, but like what was great about it was there was a lot of talk about choice, you
mm,
know, and everything
right.
throughout it. And that's almost like the theme of the movie is like, there's even lines that are both book and in the movie, but if you see, if you don't have a choice, you cease to be a man, or
Mm,
a woman
yeah,
or whoever, but they say man, but like if if you don't have a choice between doing this or that, then you're not, then you're a robot, and
yeah.
everything like that. And there was a lot about that. I mean, the chaplain kind of says it a couple times, and other people, even the warden, who they call the governor, I don't know, got me really confused because they're calling him the governor, and I'm like, there's no governors in England. And then I had to look it up and find out that the governor meant he was uh, the the governor of the jail or
Facility.
whatever, yeah,
Yeah.
and stuff. So, and I liked him a lot more in the book, because they had a little bit more with him in
Mm,
the book, because the book had more of the jail and the prison stuff, which I'm not a big prison guy. Like, I don't like watching movies and TV shows about prison.
mhm,
I get bored
mhm.
easily because I'm like, oh man, you're just kind of stuck in this one location
Right.
area thing. But I actually loved it in the book. Like, I was kind of hoping that, I was like, because I didn't remember much, and I was like, I don't think there's a lot in the prison. And didn't in the book or in the movie, it goes boom, 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 out of stuff like quickly, and I was like, how are they gonna make like the ending, like when the part 3 or whatever, like I think it was almost like an hour, like how are
Mhm.
they gonna make that work? And they did in the
Yeah.
movie. So that was my, I guess that was my favorite stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining me and talking to me about Clockwork
Yes.
Orange. And I promise I will revisit the book and film sometime in the future.
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
but do you want to tell the listeners kind of like where to follow you online and
We
what you're
have
doing?
we have a couple websites. So there's sickflickproductions.com. There is indiefilmcafe.reviews. There's indiefilmcafe.podbean.com. So there's a couple, and YouTube. Just look up Indie Film Cafe, and then Sick Flick Productions. You can look up that and find all the film stuff there. Um, Also, we're on Instagram for Indie Film Cafe. I mean, literally, if you Google Indie Film Cafe, all of the things will pop up and stuff. Like, so, I guess that's the easiest way to find them. We got Facebook, Instagram. We don't have the threads, I don't think, or anything, because I don't know. I don't know who uses threads.
Yeah, I'm not on Threads or TikTok.
We have Blue Sky thing, but I don't even use that much. I have it, and we used to have X, but they're terrible, like the Twitter stuff. So we
Yep. Yeah, I
don't
don't
do
have
them.
a Twitter either.
Yeah,
It's Instagram for me.
Instagram or Facebook
Yep.
is like our two big things. TikTok, we have a TikTok. I used to do a lot more stuff with that, like clips and stuff, but
Yeah.
kind of stopped with that.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And listeners, I'll be back next week with Sharp Objects.
Nice.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Book Watch. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of page-to-screen adaptations. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with your fellow book and movie lovers. If you'd prefer to watch along, you can check the show out on YouTube. You can follow the show on Instagram at Bookwatch Podcast, and you can follow me, Sarah-Daye, on Instagram at captain.mcdee. That's MCDEE. You can also join the conversation in the Bookwatch Lounge on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/bookwatchlounge. If you would like to support the podcast, you can join the Patreon at www.patreon.com/bookwatchpodcast. Tiers start at only $4 a month, and I'd love to have you over there. If you have a favorite adaptation you'd like to cover with me, I'd love for you to apply to be on the show with the contact form on our website at www.bookwatchpodcast.com. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and I'll see you next week.